The ground trembled with a force that echoed through the barren wasteland, a seismic ripple that could be felt in the very bones of those standing upon it. The air was sharp, carrying the acrid smell of scorched earth and twisted metal. Above, a pale, blood-red sky churned with the alien ships, their dark forms casting massive shadows that crawled across the ruined remains of Earth's once great cities. This was no longer a planet of thriving metropolises or green expanses. It was a battlefield. Captain Elias Ward knelt behind a crumbled wall, his face streaked with ash and sweat, his eyes narrowed as he scanned the horizon. Around him, his team of battle-hardened soldiers held their breath, weapons gripped tightly, as if clutching the only hope they had left. Each one carried the scars of countless battles, both physical and emotional, but none showed fear now. Fear had no place in this war, not anymore. "Movement," whispered Vega, the team sniper, her voice as sharp as her aim. She adjusted the scope of her rifle, tracking an ominous shimmer in the distance. Ward followed her gaze and saw it too, the telltale distortion of alien cloaking technology. It moved with calculated precision, weaving through the debris like a predator stalking its prey. "Confirmed," Ward said, his voice steady. "Positions. Now." The soldiers fanned out silently, their movements a synchronized dance honed through years of training and survival. They had fought these invaders before. They knew the tactics, the traps, and the terrifying lethality of the enemy. But no matter how many battles they fought, each encounter was a gamble with impossible odds. Just weeks ago, the invaders had unleashed their first wave, obliterating entire cities in mere hours. Humanity had been caught unprepared, their military outmaneuvered by the advanced technology and sheer numbers of the alien forces. Billions had died in the initial onslaught. Those who survived had either gone underground or joined the resistance, a desperate coalition of soldiers, scientists, and civilians fighting to reclaim what little remained of their world. Among them was Dr. Mara Lang, a scientist whose brilliance had become the backbone of the resistance's dwindling hope. She stood a few meters behind Ward, her slender frame hidden beneath layers of makeshift armor. Her hands clutched a small device, the culmination of months of tireless work. It was untested, unproven, but it was humanity's best shot at evening the playing field. "Is it ready?" Ward asked without looking back. Lang hesitated, her fingers tightening around the device. "Ready enough," she replied. Her voice carried a mix of determination and doubt, the weight of countless sleepless nights spent racing against extinction. A low, guttural hum cut through the air, growing louder with each passing second. The shimmer in the distance solidified into a hulking, insectoid war machine, its metallic exoskeleton glinting with an unnatural, iridescent sheen. It moved on spindly legs, each step shaking the ground, its massive body bristling with weaponry that defied human understanding. Ward didn't wait. "Engage!" The soldiers opened fire, their weapons spitting streams of plasma and high-caliber rounds that lit up the battlefield. The alien machine responded with a deafening roar, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts that turned stone and steel into molten slag. The battle was chaos incarnate. Vega's sniper rounds found their mark on the creature's sensory nodes, momentarily disorienting it. Ward and another soldier, Ramirez, flanked it from opposite sides, aiming for its vulnerable joints. Lang stayed low, her heart pounding as she calibrated the device, her mind racing through every calculation she had made. For a moment, it seemed like they might succeed. The creature faltered, its movement slowing as the team's combined assault began to take its toll. But then, with a sudden, terrifying burst of speed, it retaliated. One of its legs lashed out, striking Ramirez and sending him flying into a nearby wreckage. Another blast of energy erupted from its core, forcing the team to scatter. Ward cursed under his breath, his mind racing. They couldn't keep this up. The creature was adapting, learning their tactics in real time. "Mara, now would be a good time," he shouted. Lang didn't respond. Her focus was locked on the device, her hands trembling as she activated it. A high-pitched whine filled the air, growing louder and louder until it became almost unbearable. The alien machine froze, its movements jerky and erratic as the device emitted a pulse of energy that seemed to disrupt its systems. "Got it!" Lang yelled, a mixture of relief and triumph in her voice. Ward didn't waste a second. "Hit it with everything we've got!" The team unleashed a final, concentrated assault, their weapons tearing through the creature's weakened defenses. With a shuddering groan, it collapsed, its massive body crumpling into the dirt. A moment of silence followed, broken only by the heavy breathing of the survivors. But the victory was short-lived. A deep, resonant sound echoed across the battlefield, a sound that seemed to vibrate in their very souls. Ward's stomach sank as he turned to see the source. In the distance, rising from the horizon, was something far larger, far more menacing than anything they had faced before. A towering, obsidian structure, its surface alive with shifting patterns of light, loomed over the landscape. Lang's face went pale. "That's not possible," she whispered. "What is it?" Ward demanded, his voice sharp. Lang swallowed hard, her eyes wide with disbelief. "It's a ship. Their command ship. And it's waking up." The ground beneath them began to shake violently, cracks spidering out from the structure as it emitted a pulsating glow. The air grew heavy, charged with an otherworldly energy that made every hair on their bodies stand on end. Ward clenched his fists, his mind racing. They had barely survived this encounter. Whatever was coming next would make this fight look like a skirmish. "Fall back," he ordered, his voice cutting through the rising noise. "Regroup at the rendezvous point. Now!" The team moved quickly, carrying Ramirez's unconscious body as they retreated. But even as they fled, Ward couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The aliens had been toying with them, testing their resolve. And now, they were about to unleash their full power. As the team disappeared into the shadows, the black ship began to rise, its immense form blotting out the blood-red sky. From its depths, a new wave of invaders emerged, their forms sleek and predatory, their weapons glowing with a deadly light. The ground attack had begun. And humanity's fight for survival was far from over. The resistance moved swiftly through the maze of shattered buildings, their boots crunching over broken glass and debris. Captain Ward led the charge, his eyes scanning every shadow, every crumbled facade. The air hummed with tension, the distant roar of alien engines a constant reminder of the enemy's overwhelming presence. Behind him, Dr. Mara Lang clutched the device she'd just activated, a fragile victory that had bought them precious time. Beside her, Vega, Ramirez, and the rest of the squad moved in practiced silence, their weapons at the ready. They reached an abandoned subway station, its entrance choked with rubble. Ward gestured for the team to hold position as he checked the perimeter. The station had become a makeshift headquarters for this sector's resistance. The underground tunnels provided cover, but more importantly, they served as a conduit for communication and supply lines. Inside, the hum of human activity filled the air. Engineers worked frantically on salvaged alien technology, sparks flying from welding torches. Medics tended to the wounded, their hands steady despite the grim reality around them. Civilians huddled in corners, their faces hollow with exhaustion and fear. Yet, amidst the chaos, there was purpose. Ward approached General Harper, the grizzled leader of the resistance in this region. Harper's presence was commanding, his weathered face a testament to decades of battle. He looked up from a holographic map, his sharp eyes meeting Ward's. "Report," Harper demanded. Ward's voice was grim. "We took down one of their war machines, but it wasn't easy. Lang's device worked, but we're out of time. They've awakened their command ship. It's active." Harper's expression darkened. "How long?" "Hours. Maybe less. And it's not just the ship." Ward hesitated, then continued. "They've deployed a new wave. We saw them sleeker, faster, deadlier." Harper exhaled slowly, his jaw tightening. "We'll adapt. We always do." Ward nodded, though he wasn't sure he believed it. Every victory felt like a drop of water in an ocean of losses. Still, he knew better than to voice his doubts. Lang stepped forward, her voice firm despite the weight of her words. We can't just keep reacting. That ship is their nerve center. If we don't find a way to neutralize it, we won't survive the next wave. Harper studied her for a moment before nodding. Agreed. What do you need? Lang hesitated. Time. Resources. And a team willing to take a suicide mission. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what she was asking. Ward's jaw tightened, but he spoke without hesitation. We'll do it. Harper's gaze lingered on Ward, then shifted to the rest of the team. You've all earned the right to say no. But if anyone can pull this off, it's you. Vega was the first to speak. Her voice was steady, almost casual. Not like we've got better plans. Ramirez, still nursing a cracked rib, grinned despite the pain. Guess I'm in. Someone's got to keep these two out of trouble. The others nodded one by one, their resolve unshaken. Lang's expression softened, a flicker of gratitude crossing her face. Good, Harper said. Because if this doesn't work, there won't be a second chance. As the team prepared for the mission, the weight of the moment settled over them. Ward moved through the makeshift barracks, checking on each member of his team. Vega was sharpening her blade, a ritual that seemed almost meditative. Ramirez was joking with a young engineer, trying to lighten the mood. Lang sat alone, her eyes fixed on the device in her lap. Ward approached her, his voice low. You holding up? Lang looked up, her expression guarded. I don't have a choice. You're not in this alone, Ward said. She hesitated, then nodded. I know. It's just. I've spent my whole life solving problems with equations and theories. Now, every calculation feels like a death sentence if I'm wrong. You won't be, Ward said firmly. And even if you are, we'll figure it out. That's what we do. Lang managed a small, strained smile. Thanks, Captain. The mission began under the cover of darkness, though the concept of night and day had long since blurred under the alien sky. The team moved through the ruins, their path illuminated only by the faint glow of alien technology embedded in the landscape. The plan was simple in theory: infiltrate the command ship, plant Lang's device, and get out. In practice, it was a death trap. The first obstacle came in the form of a Sentry Patrol 3 humanoid figures clad in sleek, organic armor that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The aliens moved with an unsettling grace, their glowing weapons ready to cut down anything in their path. Vega took the lead, her sniper rifle whispering death from the shadows. 2 aliens dropped silently, but the third turned, its weapon charging with a high-pitched whine. Ward lunged, his blade slicing through the alien's neck before it could fire. The team pressed on, every step a calculated risk. They reached the base of the command ship, its massive structure looming above them like a monument to despair. Lang activated a small drone, its light casting eerie shadows as it scanned for an entry point. Got it, she whispered. Follow me. Inside, the ship was a labyrinth of alien architecture, its walls pulsating with a faint, otherworldly light. The air was heavy, charged with an energy that made their skin crawl. Every sound seemed amplified, every shadow a potential threat. As they moved deeper, the ship seemed to come alive. Strange, organic tendrils began to shift and writhe, as if sensing their presence. Vega's sharp eyes caught movement ahead, and the team froze. A massive alien drone emerged, its body bristling with weapons. Fallback plan? Ramirez muttered. Don't die, Ward replied, raising his weapon. The battle was brutal. The drone's attacks were relentless, its weaponry devastating. The team fought with everything they had, their training and resilience pushed to the limit. Lang worked frantically to shield the device from stray fire, her mind racing as she recalculated their odds of survival. They managed to bring the drone down, but not without cost. Ramirez was injured, his leg burned from a near miss. Vega was out of ammo, her rifle now a makeshift club. Ward's armor was scorched, his movement slower. And still, they pressed on. By the time they reached the core of the ship, the tension was suffocating. Lang connected the device to the alien systems, her hands shaking as she worked. The ship seemed to react, its walls pulsating faster, its tendrils growing more agitated. "We've got company," Vega warned, her voice tight. A new wave of aliens poured into the chamber, their forms sleek and menacing. Ward and the others held the line, their weapons blazing as they fought to buy Lang time. The battle was chaotic, each moment a desperate struggle for survival. And then, just as Lang activated the device, it happened. The ship shuddered violently, a deafening roar filling the chamber. The aliens faltered, their movements erratic. For a moment, it seemed like they had won. But then Lang's face went pale. "No," she whispered. This isn't right." Before anyone could react, the ship's core pulsed with a blinding light, and a voice deep, resonant, and utterly alien echoed through their minds. "You dare defy us?" Ward's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a ship. It was something more, something alive. And it had been listening all along. The voice reverberated through the chamber like a thunderclap, a sound that wasn't just heard, but felt deep in their bones. Ward staggered under the weight of it, his grip tightening around his weapon. The others froze, their expressions a mix of shock and dread. Even the aliens faltered, their movements halting as if the voice had reached into their minds as well. Lang's hands hovered over the device, trembling. "This isn't just a ship," she said, her voice barely audible. "It's alive. It's conscious." Ward's mind raced. Alive? Conscious? The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a war of survival against invaders, it was something far more complex, something they hadn't begun to understand. "Can we shut it down?" he demanded. Lang swallowed hard, her fingers moving quickly over the controls. "Maybe. But if this thing is aware, it's going to fight back." As if in response, the ship shuddered again, and the walls began to shift. What had been static alien architecture was now fluid, organic, and hostile. Tendrils of bioluminescent energy snaked down from the ceiling, converging on the group. The air grew heavy with an electric charge, and an otherworldly hum filled the chamber. "Here they come!" Vega shouted, snapping everyone back into action. She fired at one of the tendrils, the blast scorching the surface, but failing to stop it. Ramirez, injured but defiant, joined her, his shots more precise. The tendrils recoiled, but only briefly. "We can't hold this position," Ward barked. He turned to Lang. "You've got 30 seconds. Make it count." Lang's fingers flew across the alien console, her mind racing through calculations. This wasn't just about shutting the ship down, she needed to understand what they were dealing with. Every adjustment she made seemed to provoke a reaction from the ship, as if it were aware of her every move. "It's learning," Lang muttered. "It's adapting to me." "Then adapt faster," Vega snapped, dodging a tendril that lashed out like a whip. Outside the ship, the battle raged on. Resistance forces were scattered, outnumbered, and outgunned. Alien drones swooped through the skies, their energy weapons carving through makeshift human defenses. Tanks retrofitted with salvaged alien tech fired back, their shots precise, but not nearly enough. Soldiers and civilians alike fought with grim determination, but the weight of the war was starting to show. Supplies were running low, and morale was fraying. In one of the resistance bunkers, General Harper paced, his hands clenched into fists. The latest reports were grim, entire sectors wiped out, key outposts lost. And yet, the resistance wasn't broken. Not yet. "What about Ward's team?" Harper asked, his voice sharp. "They've breached the ship," a young officer replied. "But we've lost contact." The signal cut off after he hesitated. after the ship spoke. Harper froze. It spoke? The officer nodded. We don't know how, but it was broadcasted on every channel. A warning. Or maybe a threat. Harper's jaw tightened. Then they're closer than anyone's ever been. We hold the line. No matter the cost. Back inside the ship, Ward and his team fought desperately. The tendrils were relentless, their movements faster and more aggressive. Ward's rifle clicked empty, and he switched to his blade, hacking at the writhing mass. Vega and Ramirez were holding their own, but their exhaustion was clear. Lang's focus was unwavering, her mind locked on the task at hand. I've got it! Lang suddenly shouted. But it's not what we thought. This isn't just a command ship, it's a hive mind. It's connected to all of them. Ward's eyes narrowed. If we take it out, we sever their network, Lang confirmed. But it's not going to let us. It knows. As if on cue, the chamber darkened, and the voice returned, colder and more menacing than before. You cannot win. You are but insects beneath our gaze. We'll see about that, Ward growled. Lang, do it. Now. Lang activated the device, and the ship screamed a sound that wasn't just auditory but visceral, vibrating through their very cells. The walls convulsed, and the tendrils recoiled. For a moment, it seemed like they'd done it. But then the ship began to change. The walls turned a deep, pulsating red, and the hum became a deafening roar. A new figure emerged from the shadows, a towering alien with an aura of authority. It moved with deliberate menace, its armor glistening like liquid metal. This wasn't a drone. This was something far worse. What the hell is that? Vega muttered, raising her weapon. Lang's voice was barely a whisper. It's the Overseer. The Overseer moved with terrifying precision, its every step radiating power. It raised an arm, and an energy blast erupted from its palm, forcing the team to scatter. Ward rolled behind cover, his mind racing. They couldn't take this thing head-on, not in their current state. Lang, how much time do we need? Ward shouted. More than we've got. She replied, frantically recalibrating the device. The battle was chaos. The Overseer seemed to predict their every move, countering each attack with ease. Ramirez was pinned down, his injuries worsening. Vega was forced into close quarters, her blade clashing against the Overseer's energy shield. Ward fought like a man possessed, but even he couldn't land a decisive blow. And then, just when it seemed hopeless, the Resistance's ingenuity shone through. Lang, driven by desperation and brilliance, tapped into the ship's systems through her device. I can redirect its power, she said. But I need someone to keep it distracted. Ward didn't hesitate. We've got this. Do your job. The team rallied, using every ounce of strength and skill to hold the Overseer's attention. Vega's strikes became more precise, targeting weak points in its armor. Ramirez, despite his injuries, set up a makeshift trap with a grenade and some salvaged alien tech. Ward engaged directly, his movements calculated and relentless. Finally, Lang's device emitted a high-pitched tone, and the ship shuddered violently. The Overseer paused, its head tilting as if confused. It's working! Lang shouted. But there's a failsafe. If we don't get out now, this whole place is going down. Ward hesitated. The mission was almost complete, but something about the Overseer's reaction gnawed at him. It wasn't just confusion, it was calculation. As if it was letting them win. Something's not right, Ward muttered. Lang, can we shut it down completely? Lang shook her head. Not without taking ourselves out with it. Ward cursed under his breath. Then we fall back. Move! The team retreated, the ship collapsing around them. Explosions echoed through the corridors, and the Overseer's voice followed them, calm and chilling. Run, insects! Your time is fleeting. They barely made it out, the ship erupting in a fiery inferno behind them. But the victory felt hollow. As they regrouped with the resistance, Ward couldn't shake the feeling that they'd played right into the invaders' hands. And then the reports came in. Across the battlefield, alien forces were retreating not in defeat, but in precision. The Resistance's scanners picked up something massive moving in orbit, its shadow eclipsing the stars. Lang's face went pale. "It's not over," she said. "They've been holding back. And now, they're ready." Ward clenched his fists, his gaze hard. The battle was far from won, and the true war was only beginning. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burning metal and charred earth as Ward and his team stumbled out of the ruined ship. Behind them, the massive alien vessel continued to collapse in on itself, fiery tendrils licking at the sky as its internal systems tore themselves apart. The team had barely escaped with their lives, but there was no time to revel in their survival. All around them, the battlefield was alive with chaos. Alien drones fell back in organized waves, their movements too calculated to be a retreat. It wasn't defeat, it was a regrouping. Lang's trembling hands worked furiously on her portable console, her face pale and drawn. "The readings aren't making sense," she muttered. That ship wasn't just a command center, it was a relay. A signal hub. It wasn't destroyed, it was transmitting something before it went down. Ward narrowed his eyes. "Transmitting what?" Lang shook her head. "I don't know. But whatever it was, it went far beyond our atmosphere. Maybe even beyond the system." Vega, covered in ash and blood, let out a bitter laugh. "Great. So we didn't just poke the hornet's nest, we sent up a damn beacon." Before anyone could respond, a sharp, piercing sound erupted from the distance, cutting through the cacophony of battle. It was unlike anything they'd heard before, a resonant, almost metallic wail that seemed to echo from the very ground beneath their feet. The soldiers on the front lines froze, their eyes darting around in confusion. Even the alien drones hesitated, their synchronized movements faltering for a split second. "What the hell is that?" Ramirez whispered, clutching his side where his injuries were beginning to slow him down. Lang's console began to flicker and glitch, streams of data pouring across the screen too fast to decipher. "Something's interfering with the systems," she said, panic creeping into her voice. "It's like it's rewriting everything." Ward felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "Lang, are you telling me this is coming from the aliens?" Lang hesitated, her fingers moving hesitantly across the keys. "No. This isn't them. It's something else." Across the battlefield, the resistance forces began to regroup, their spirits tentatively lifting at the sight of the retreating aliens. General Harper watched from a forward command post, his seasoned gaze scanning the horizon. Reports were flooding in of unexpected victories, pockets of human forces managing to push back the invaders in areas that had seemed hopeless only hours ago. But Harper didn't feel relief. The timing was too perfect, the enemy's withdrawal too deliberate. He leaned over to his communications officer. "Get me a status report on Ward's team. I want to know what they found in that ship." The officer nodded but hesitated. "Sir, we're picking up strange activity across all frequencies. It's not alien. At least, not the same kind." Harper's eyes narrowed. "Define not the same kind." The officer swallowed hard. "It's older, sir. Older than anything we've encountered. And it's spreading." Ward and his team pushed forward, cutting through the chaos to regroup with a nearby resistance unit. The sound, the wailing, metallic hum grew louder with every step, resonating through their bones. It wasn't just a sound, it was a presence, an oppressive force pressing down on them. "Lang, I need answers," Ward snapped, his tone sharper than usual. Lang looked up from her console, her face stricken. I think we triggered something. That relay wasn't just sending out commands, it was suppressing something. Containing it." And now that it's gone, whatever was buried is waking up. Waking up? Vega repeated, her voice incredulous. What the hell does that mean? Before Lang could respond, the ground beneath their feet trembled violently. Cracks spiderwebbed through the scorched earth, and a deep, guttural rumble echoed from below. The team instinctively spread out, weapons drawn, as the tremors intensified. Then, with a deafening roar, the ground erupted. Massive, obsidian-like structures shot up from the earth, jagged and unnatural. They pulsed with a sickly, crimson light, and the air around them seemed to ripple with heat. From the largest structure, a shape began to emerge, a towering, inhuman figure of blackened metal and shifting energy. Lang's console sparked and died as the figure took form. "This isn't alien," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. This is something else entirely. Something that's been here, buried beneath us, long before the invaders ever arrived." Ward stared at the towering entity, his heart pounding. "You're telling me we've been fighting the wrong war?" Lang nodded slowly. "The aliens weren't here to conquer us. They were trying to stop this." The entity moved with an unnatural grace, its limbs fluid and otherworldly. Where it stepped, the ground seemed to decay, turning to ash and dust. The alien drones, once retreating in perfect formation, now turned back, but not toward the humans. They converged on the entity, their weapons firing in unison. It didn't matter. The entity swatted them away like insects, its sheer presence unraveling their forms. The humans watched in stunned silence as their enemies' creatures they had fought so desperately to defeat were obliterated with ease. Ward snapped out of his stupor. "We need to fall back. Now." Vega hesitated. "Fall back to where? This thing isn't going to stop." Lang's eyes widened as she scanned the battlefield. "It's not just here," she said. "I'm picking up similar energy signatures all over the planet. This is just one of them." Ward's chest tightened. "You're saying there are more?" Lang nodded. "Dozens. Maybe hundreds." A chilling realization washed over the team. This wasn't just a new enemy, it was a force that made their alien invaders seem almost insignificant. And humanity wasn't prepared for it. As they retreated, the team's comms crackled to life. General Harper's voice came through, strained but steady. "Ward, I need a sit rep. Now." Ward didn't mince words. "We've got a new problem, General. Bigger than the invaders. Something ancient, and it's waking up all over the planet." There was a long pause on the other end. Then Harper spoke, his voice grim. "Understood. We're mobilizing all remaining forces. But Ward, if what you're saying is true, this isn't just about survival anymore. This is about extinction." The line went dead, leaving Ward and his team to grapple with the weight of Harper's words. They had fought so hard to push back the invaders, only to uncover a deeper, more existential threat. And now, as the entity loomed behind them, its crimson light casting an ominous glow over the battlefield, one thing was clear. The war wasn't over. It had only just begun. The night sky above Earth was painted with streaks of fire and smoke as the remnants of the human resistance prepared for what they knew would likely be their final battle. Overhead, the shattered remnants of the alien mothership drifted in orbit, casting ominous shadows over the scarred planet below. Every human settlement, every safe haven, had become a battleground. The invaders had regrouped, bolstered by reinforcements that poured through shimmering portals. Their true power, which had been cloaked in earlier skirmishes, was now fully unleashed. In the underground bunker that served as the Resistance's last command center, the air was thick with urgency. Maps, holograms, and blueprints lit up the room, while the muffled thud of distant explosions reverberated through the walls. Ward stood at the center of it all, his face grim as he addressed the room of soldiers, scientists, and leaders who had survived this far. Lang and Vega flanked him, their expressions betraying exhaustion and fear, but also determination. "This is it," Ward began, his voice carrying over the controlled chaos. We've identified the command nexus of their ground forces. If we take it out, we cripple their ability to coordinate. It's the only shot we've got to level the playing field." He paused, scanning the faces in the room. "But it won't be easy. The nexus is deep within their territory, surrounded by fortifications and whatever the hell those ancient entities are." The room fell silent at his words. Everyone had seen the devastation caused by the entities, those massive, otherworldly forces that had erupted from the ground like ancient gods awakened from a deep slumber. The aliens fought them as fiercely as they fought humanity, but the entities seemed untouchable, impervious to weapons from either side. They moved with purpose, annihilating everything in their path, without distinction. No one knew their agenda, only that their emergence had turned an already desperate war into something even worse. Lang stepped forward, her voice breaking the heavy silence. "We've managed to decode part of the signal from the alien relay Ward's team destroyed. It's not just a command hub, it's a suppression system. The aliens didn't just come here to conquer, they came to contain those things." She gestured to a holographic representation of one of the entities, its shifting, blackened form glowing faintly. "And now that the suppression system is down, the entities are spreading unchecked." Harper's gruff voice came through the comm system, his image flickering to life on the central screen. "We don't have the luxury of solving one problem at a time. The aliens are still the immediate threat. If we can destroy their nexus, we buy ourselves time to figure out how to deal with the entities." Vega scoffed, crossing her arms. "And what if we can't figure it out? What if we're just delaying the inevitable?" Ward shot her a look. "Then we make every second we delay count." The Resistance's final plan was as daring as it was desperate. A small, elite strike team led by Ward would infiltrate the alien command center, planting a series of EMP charges designed to disrupt their systems and sever their network. Meanwhile, the rest of the Resistance would launch a full-scale assault to draw enemy forces away from the Nexus. It was a suicide mission in all but name, but no one hesitated. As the team geared up, the tension in the bunker was palpable. Lang pulled Ward aside, her voice low. "There's something I haven't told the others. The signal. It wasn't just suppression. It was a warning. The aliens weren't trying to conquer us, they were trying to keep those entities contained for a reason." Ward frowned. "What reason?" Lang hesitated, her eyes darting to the holographic map. The signal mentioned a catalyst. Something about Earth, or maybe us, that triggered their awakening. The aliens were trying to stop it, but now that the suppression is gone, the entities are evolving. Adapting. Ward processed her words, his jaw tightening. "And the aliens? Do they know?" Lang nodded. "They're just as desperate as we are. That's why their attacks have been so erratic. They're trying to finish their objective before the entities overrun everything. But here's the thing, if we take out their nexus, it might not just cripple their forces. It might force their hand. They might go all in." Ward exhaled slowly. "Then we better make sure we hit them hard enough that they can't recover." The mission began under the cover of darkness, though the concept of darkness had become relative. The sky was constantly illuminated by the distant glow of fires and the harsh light of alien war machines. The strike team moved silently through the ruined cityscape, the ruins of human civilization serving as both cover and grim reminders of what was at stake.